In the previous video, I introduced this series by showing a working prototype of the web app we will be developing throughout this series. It's a gym web application designed to manage gym members, collect revenue, and promote the gym through blogs. Before I get started, I'd like to thank you all for your continuous support and feedback. And also a special thanks to all of you that engage with my videos through comments, likes, and sharing my content with friends and colleagues. Throughout this series, I'll be using VS Code as my code editor and Ubuntu as my operating system. If you are on Mac or Windows, you don't need to worry. You can still follow along. So the first thing you need to do is to create a directory. I'm going to do that using my terminal. So make directory. I'm going to call it alpha gym. Then we can seed into the directory. Then it's always recommended to create a virtual environment. So you can do that using Python 3 and VNV. This is universal for both Mac and Windows. This will create a virtual environment and you can activate it using source VNV bin activate. For Windows, this is slightly different. After that, we need to install Django using pip. I will install Django. After that, we need to create a Django project, and we can do that using Django admin, start project. I'm going to call mine gym, and remember to add the period sign at the end. So we have this. You can see we have our gym project, we have our manage.py file and our virtual environment. We can see the structure of this directory using tree and specify the I flag, that is to prevent it from listing the directories within the virtual environment, so that it will list only the gym directory and manage.py file. So you can see we have our gym directory, which is our root project, and manage.py file. Within the gym directory, we have our wisg urls.py file, settings, and sg. After that's done, we can open this in VS Code using code, full stop, or period. This will open VS Code in the current directory. So we have this, we have our gym project, virtual environment, and manage.py file that we can use to run administrative tasks such as starting new projects, making migrations, and so on. We can check if everything is running correctly by running our dev server, Python, manage.py, run server, and we get this page. This is the default Django page showing that everything has been installed properly. After that, we can create our first application. This will be our home application, which will be responsible for the logic of the home page, our about us, and also our services section. So we can do that using Python, manage.py, startup, we're going to call it home. After that, we are going to need to register it in our installed apps. So in our root project directory where we have our settings file, within the installed apps, we need to register the home app, which we've just created. And within our home directory, we can start writing the logic for our home page. So we are going to start by writing our first views. In Django, views handle the logic of processing requests, retrieving data from our database, and passing it to our HTML templates. They can either be function-based or class-based. Each view will correspond to a URL guiding its requests to the appropriate view for processing. To keep things simple for now, I'm going to create a very simple function-based view just to demonstrate the relationship between URL configuration and views. So I can do that by creating a function. This will be hello world. It will take a request object, and we are going to return an HTTP response, and we need to import that. So from Django.http import HTTP response. So it will return an HTTP response of hello world. After that's defined, we need to create a URL configuration file for our home page or our home application. So within our home directory, create a new file. This will be urls.py, and it will be very similar to our root configuration URLs file, which is this. So we can just copy this for now and paste it in over here and import the view we just created. So from current directory .views import hello world. So now I'm going to remove this, and we have path. This will be hello, and the view is going to be hello world. After that's done, we need to include this URL configuration file in our root project's URL file, and we can do that using the include function. You can see the description in Django's comments. So within Django URLs, we need to import include, and this will just include our blog URL configuration. So we can say path. For now, I'm just going to leave it as empty, and we are going to include our home.urls. With that, I think we are ready to test it. So Python manage.py run server. So we can go to our home page, and we get this error for now, and you can see the Django's notes using URL configuration in gem URLs. We tried the following URL patterns: admin, hello. So we just need to go to hello, and you can see we get our hello world. So this works for now, but in a real world project, this wouldn't be ideal, because you can see that for now we are just passing a string, but in a real world project we are going to need to pass HTML files, handle CSS, images, and so on. So for that, we are going to need a more complex view than this. So in the previous video, I mentioned that we are going to be using this theme from Gmwagon. I've added some custom CSS and JS for our custom needs, but if you want, you can just download it and as a challenge and do it yourself. But I'm going to share it with you guys with the full CSS and custom JS. I've also added some Bootstrap. The Bootstrap that they are using in this template it's very old. So I have it over here. You can see we have our 404 about us, the base HTML, index HTML, services, the team. We have the fonts, CSS, and the images. Using VS Code, I can go live and see it in action. So you have it here. We have the team HTML. We have the services page. You have the about us, and you have the home page. So you can see it's very smart and modern. Also, I want you to take note of the base HTML. This is going to come in handy in a few minutes. For now, I want us to create the first view for our index page, which is the home page. So in our view, I'm going to create that. So def, this will be home view, text request, and this should return and render. We're going to take the request object, and it also needs to take in a template name. We haven't created the template, but for now, let me just pass it in as index.html. And after that, we also need to create our URLs for the home view. So in our URLs for our home application, we are going to import the home view, and add that path. So path, which is home, we're going to have the home view, and we're going to give it a name, which is home. So if we try to go to this URL at the moment, it won't work. Let me just run the server so that we can see it in action. Python manage.py run server, and we can go to localhost port 8000 _ home, and you can see we get this error: template does not exist at home. Exception value is the index.html. This is an easy fix. Within our project, we just need to create a new directory, and we're going to call it templates. And we're also going to need to create another directory known as static, which will hold our static files, which is the CSS and images. And within our template directory, here we're going to have our templates. So I'm going to copy the index.html from the Gym-Life master template we downloaded, and this is it. So I can just copy it and paste it in our templates. So within our templates, I'm going to paste it in. We'll have our index.html. And now if we refresh it, it still won't work. And this is because of how Django tries to find the index.html file. This is also an easy fix, and we can do this in our settings file. So in our root project file, in our settings, in our template setting, we need to specify the directory location of where Django is going to locate our template files. So in this key, known as dials or directories, we are going to pass in the templates directory. So we have the base directory. Let's go templates. This base directory is a constant variable defined above here by Django. So we have it here, and we have our templates over here, and also have our static files for now. So we can refresh this and see what happens. This is because we haven't activated our server. So we can do that using Python manage.py run server and refresh it. You can see you have the basic HTML, but the CSS for now is still not active. You can copy the CSS from this directory, from the Gym-Life master. So we have the CSS, the fonts, and the images, and also the JS. So you can copy this and just paste it in our static directory. And we are also going to do the same thing we did for the templates for our static files. So we have our static URLs. We also need to specify the static directory, and we can do that using static dirs, static directories. This is a list, so we can have base dir underscore static. So with that, we can try to refresh it, but again, it won't work. You can see, but we still have our HTML. This won't work for now. We still need to do a little bit of work. So this is not working because Django doesn't know how to access our static files, or we haven't loaded them yet. It's an easy fix. We just need to do this at the top of our HTML file. We do load static. So after loading static, we should be able to access our static files. We just need to fix this CSS URLs. So we can do that using, first I'm going to replace this, the Bootstrap main CSS using a CDN link that is from Bootstrap. So I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to paste in the Bootstrap CDN link and also the icons, the ones we're going to use for our icons. So I'm going to remove this for now, paste them in. And here we have our Bootstrap icons and the Bootstrap CSS. For the rest that we have hosted locally, we are going to do this. So I'm going to cut this and open a variable using, we are using our templating language known as Ginger. So we can do this, and this is static, open a quotation and paste that in. So this should load this CSS file, and you can also do the same for this flat icon CSS, static, and paste that in. Do the same for our carousel. But now you know what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to do the same for all of this. I'm going to speed it up a bit. So after that is done, after loading our CSS, we can reload our page and see what happens. You can see a bit of HTML and a bit of CSS is visible. So we can inspect it, and in our network pad, you can see what happens. You can see we have most of our CSS is loaded except our JS and some JavaScript and some images. So at the bottom of the page, let me just limit this, the header and the hero section. And you're going to do the same thing for our JS, the same thing we did above. So I'm going to cut this. Here I'm going to have static and paste that in. For Bootstrap, I'm also going to use a CDN link. So I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to cut this static, paste that in. Do the same for this. So after that's done, I'm going to paste in the Bootstrap CDN links for JavaScript. We have the Popper.js and Bootstrap main.js. So most of our CSS is loading correctly. We have them except our images, and also our JS. It's not loading correctly. I think this is because of a mistake I made in our settings files directory. This should be static files instead of static dirs. It should be static files, so you can correct that. It happens to the best of us, so we can try and refresh it. And you can see we have the CSS is now working correctly, except now we don't have we haven't configured the images, and yeah, it's just the images. So you can work on that in our index.html. In our header section, we can do the same thing, just the same thing we did for our CSS files. So where we have it, we have our static and paste it in. That's our logo. What else? In our hero section, we have our hero images. Again, static. I'm going to speed this up so that you don't have to watch me do this. You already know what I'm going to do. I've gone through the whole document and added the static files and our static images. So this will be Django, so Django will be able to find them. So we can now refresh it and see what happens. And here we have our images loading correctly. Except maybe this, I think I entered the wrong logo image over here. And also these team members are very small, so we can edit it. That's under in the footer section. We need to replace this with the logo .png. Let's see, we have it there. And the next thing, we need to edit this section of our team so that they are visible enough. And that's over here where we have this. These are some bootstrap classes which we need to edit for the team members. Yeah, this should be 10. Also, this should be 10. Let me just use this shortcut. 10. And refresh it. And yeah. So that is working correctly. So our homepage for now is working correctly. Let's go ahead and add another page. I'm going to do the same for the about page. So I'm going to copy it from the gym master, copy the about us.html. Just copy it and paste it in the templates directory. We're going to paste it in about us.html. And straight away, you're going to notice we have a lot of repetition. For example, in our head, we are importing the CSS again. We are importing the preloader. We are using the same navigation, the same JS. Basically, there's a lot of repetition. And the idea when in programming is to keep your code as dry as possible. That is, do not repeat yourself. This will come in handy when we have a lot of pages. For example, if we have over 10 HTML pages and we want to change the title of our HTML or one of our CSS attributes, we are going to have to go through every HTML page and make the changes in all the HTML pages. That is not ideal. In an ideal world, like I said, we want to keep the application as dry as possible. That is, do not repeat yourself. I can't stress that enough. Luckily in Django, we have a quick fix for that. And that is by using a base HTML file. So we have it in our gym life master file where we have our base HTML file. We can just copy it. So I'm going to copy it and paste it in our templates. paste it in. And here I'm going to remove everything that we don't need. So in our body, so we have our head, body, HTML. At the top, we are going to load static. So load static. In our head, this should be consistent for all our HTML templates. So in my index HTML, which I just did, I'm going to copy the CSS styles in Google font and also the meta tags. So I'm going to paste it in over here. We have our body. We are going to need the preloader of canvas menu, the header section. We are going to need the header section, which is our navigation, and we're also going to need our footer. Our JS plugins, let me just copy the same thing we did in our index.html file. So JS plugins, let me copy that and paste it in over here. We have our bootstrap over here, our footer. Let me just copy the footer section and paste it in. Control V. So we have our footer section, and within our main HTML tag, this is where we are going to have our dynamic HTML content. But first of all, let me just customize the header section. I can just copy it from the index.html file. Where is the header section? This is it. I'm going to copy the header section and paste it in over here. Then in our about template, we're going to remove everything that is going to be repeated. So I'm going to remove the header. You can also remove the body and the off canvas menu. We are going to inherit them from our base template. We're also going to remove the header section. This is unique to the about section, the breadcrumb, so we are going to leave it in. The chooser section is also unique to the about section, so we are going to leave it in. About us section, you're going to leave it in too. The team section, you're also going to leave it in. The banner section, we're also going to leave it in. Testimonials, we're also going to leave it in. Get in touch, you're also going to leave it in. The footer section, we are going to remove it because you're going to inherit it from the base HTML file. We're also going to remove the search model and remove the JS plugins and the remainder of the HTML tags. All we are left with is this. So at the top, we need to extend base.html file. So we say extends base.html. And we also need to load static. So we say load static. Then we're going to have a block. So this is also done by Ginger 2. So here we have block content, and here we're just going to close that using end content. Then in our block content, we are going to paste this in. So we can cut this, Control X, and paste it in. So after that, we also need to add this block in our base.html file, and we want it to be within our main HTML tag. And you can see this practically in our base.html. So base.html, and we want our main content to go over here. We can inspect it and see what I'm talking about. This is where we want our main content to go. So in our main content, I'm going to say block content. You can just copy this, paste it in, and end block content. So when we load our about us template, it's going to override the block content. So at the top, we extend the base HTML file and load our static files. Then we can proceed to do the same thing we did with the rest of the images and CSS using the static tags. So this is static. So you already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to speed this up. So throughout the HTML, I've added the static tags to help Django locate the images and the icons. So that is the about us HTML. So you can proceed to create the view. So we have def about view. This will take the request object. So this should return render request. The template name is about us.html. After that, we need to register it in our URLs file. So path about, we need to import it. So this is the about view. About view, the name is equals to about. We need a comma over here. This is a list. Okay, so our server is running correctly. We can test this by going to the about page. So we have localhost. Let us go to about. And yeah, we have it. You can see this is working correctly. And with those changes, our HTML files are more or less dry, except for the home page. That is the index.html file. This is it. Here we just need to, again, we need to extend the base.html file. So at the top, we do extend. Say this extends base.html. So it extends the base.html file. We need to remove the head and the doc. So we can remove that. In the part of the body, we are going to remove the canvas and the page loader. We can also remove the header section. The hero section choosers, this should remain the same because they are unique to the index.html file. We can also remove the JS plugins, and let's remove the search model too. Let's also remove the rest of the HTML tags and do the block thing. So you can have this shortcut. I have this extension, block content, and just copy this and paste it in. So and when we do that, and when we go to our home page, we should see that everything is working correctly. There's only one thing that I need to show you, and that is how to pass data to our views. For example, at the moment you can see that our title is fixed for all pages. Our about and the home share the same title gem template. So I want to show you how we can customize this and why it was important for us to use a base.html file. So right now you can see that we've had coded the title as gem.template. So I want us to learn how you can make this more dynamic. And the way to do that, it's in our views. So for example, in our homepage, we want to pass the title homepage or home. So in our render tag, we can pass the data as context. And this is usually a dictionary. So we can say context, we can have title, let's say home. And we can have the same thing for our about page. Let's have it as about us. Then in our base.html file, we want to check if the title is provided. You can do that using an if block. And we're using the same templating language, which is Ginger. So I have a shortcut for that. So if title, we want to pass in the title. So I'm going to pass in over here, and that's a variable, and we access variables in Ginger using a double curly braces. Here we can pass in the title. Else, if you don't have the title, let us just pass a default title, which is alpha gem. And with that, we can remove this title tag over here and see it in action. So in our about section, you can refresh it and you can see that the title has changed to about us. In our home, you can see that again, the title has changed. So that is working correctly. We have our about us.html, base, we have the about HTML, base HTML, index HTML. There's a couple of HTMLs remaining, that is the services and the theme.html. I challenge you to do that yourselves. I can start you off by writing the views. So we can just copy this, paste it in. So I have the services view and the theme view. This will be the services.html, and this will be theme.html. The title over here should be services. Title over here should be theme. Then in our templates, new file, have the theme.html. Another file, let's have it as services.html. So we register it in our URLs. Let's have the theme view and services view. Again, let's just copy this, where we have about the theme view. Within the services.html and theme views, you are going to need to extend Then you're going to need to load static. You're also going to need the block. And over here, you're going to paste in your block. So I've prepared this separately, so I'm just going to paste it in. Again, you can try doing this yourself. So this is the services, the team.html. So the team.html, still the same thing. Extend base.html, then the block, and over here in the team.html, we can copy it from gmaster. We don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need the header. We do need the breadcrumb section. So you can have that section breadcrumb. That's our team. Then you can have the team section. Paste that in. You can leave out the get in touch section and just have the team section. For the team HTML, you're going to need to customize it and add the static tags. For example, in the images, remove this and have it as static, and do that across the whole page. So I have this. So at the end of the day, you should have something like this. Team services. I think mine are ready. And we can just check it out by going to the team. The team is not working correctly. I think that is because of my content name. So block content, this should be content. And we can refresh it. And yeah, we have it. We can go to the services side. Yeah, I think we are missing something. If you look at the original template, we are missing the breadcrumb. So we can just add that. Copy the breadcrumb and paste it in above here. Replace this with static. We have that. So I think that's it for now. You've seen how you can, first of all, you've seen how to create a Django project. You've seen how to create a Django app and register it. You've seen how to create Django templates, customizable, dry, custom Django templates. You've seen how to work with static files. And you've seen how to work with URLs. So I think that's it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we are going to create a blog application. That should be very interesting. We're going to see how we can use class-based views. You're going to learn about different Django functions. You're going to learn how to use models, how to interact with the database. But before we do the blog application, I think it's best we handle the users first of all. So we're going to start by creating a users application. We're going to create a custom user model. That's better than creating a user model and creating a separate model and creating a one-to-one relationship as you've seen most people do in their tutorials. Yeah, so that's it, and see you in the next one. If you found this video useful, consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing, and you can contribute to the growth of this channel by buying me a coffee in the link in the description or scanning the QR code. So again, thank you so much. See you in the next one.